Hello guys, welcome back to the second video of developing a banking desktop application. So we have a very minimal application so far. Just going to run it, and as you can see, we have the window. We can log in with a username and with our password, and once we log in, we have this simple dashboard, which is this one here. So today we are going to add a sidebar here, and the sidebar is going to contain a list of accordions, of course, for admin. Only the admin can access, and the other details where the other users can access. So let's begin adding our components. So the first thing we're going to add here is going to add a sidebar. Just say sidebar.go. Of course, it's going to be a package belonging to views. I'm just going to call it sidebar. It's going to accept a window, find.window, and other components. So in our case, we're going to add the sidebar. Of course, the sidebar is going to contain the dashboard and any other components like the users. So for now, we can add a function and just say show dashboard, since we already have it. In this case, it's just going to be a function. Okay, I'm going to return find.container. Then we're going to have that. So we're going to return here, just going to say return, because we are returning a container. Let's say maybe dot new border, and then we don't want anything at the top. It's going to be nil, and then this is also going to be nil, then nil, then right we can also say nil, and then maybe we can say widget new label, and we can just call it sidebar. Okay, then now since we have our sidebar, have to add it to the entry point. Okay, we have to add it to our main here, because instead of just displaying the dashboard here, this one is supposed to appear within the sidebar. Okay, so since we have defined a function called sidebar here, we can just define our specific components. But before that, I'm going to ensure that only the admin can see the sidebar. So I'm just going to come here to auth, and I'm going to add a role-based access control, and we can just say into the package of auth. Then I'm just going to call it is admin, so that we want to check if a given user is admin. Also going to accept the user ID. Of course, going to be primitive.object ID. Also going to pass the window so that we can display any kind of errors. They're going to return a boolean, because it's going to check if a certain user is an admin or not. Okay, so the first thing, we have to define our collection. I'm just going to define our user collection here. Then we're going to say utils get collection. Of course, it's going to be users. Okay, then I'm just going to define my user here, models.user. Then we're going to fetch the user first. I'm going to find them. Let's find one. What's the context, the background? Then we're going to supply the filters. Goes based on them and based on our models here. Yeah, we are fetching based on the user ID. So that's why we are passing it here. Then we're going to pass the user ID. Then we're decoding. Decoding the use. Okay. Because we handle the error. Error is not equal to nil. I'm going to show a dialog. It's going to be an error dialog. We're going to supply the error, the window. Then we're going to return false. So it means that if there's an error fetching the user, then we just by default we say they're not going to be admin. Otherwise, we're going to return user.role equals to admin. Now you have to ensure this admin follows. Let me come to the helpers here. Make sure it's in capital letters, otherwise it will bring some issues. So we've defined our role-based access control here. We can come back to our sidebar. Then we have to confirm that the user and admin. So we can say is admin. Then we can say helpers dot is admin. Okay. Helpers dot is admin. What am I missing here? It's in auth. Okay. Auth is admin. And then we're supposed to supply the user ID. So since we're supplying the user ID, it should also be passed within the function here. I'm just going to add it here. Say user ID. And say primitive object ID. And then we want to pass the user ID here. And then we're also passing the window. Okay, so this one should be able to check that if the logged in user is an admin or not. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add an accordion whereby it's going to have admin privileges and the other privileges. Okay, so I'm going to showcase the dashboard. Of course, dashboard is for the admin, and then I'm also going to add a test view for the other details so that it can be easy for us to add them later. So I'm going to come here to the views and I'm going to create test.go. Yeah, this is just going to be a view package. Then I'm just going to call it test view. Of course, it's going to accept the window. It's going to be a Fyne.window. Of course, it's going to return a Fyne container. Okay, going to return container dot new border, and everything else is going to be nil. For now, of course, we're setting up the base. And then I'm just going to have a widget dot new label, and then I'm just going to call it test view. Okay, so we have our test view. Then I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call it user. I'm just going to call this user view. And I'm just going to call this user view. And close this. Then we come back to the sidebar. Now, the sidebar, we're going to have two accordions. One is going to be the details accordion where everybody else can view it. And we have the admin accordion. So I'm just going to say details accordion. Widget dot new accordion item. Okay, the title is going to be details. And then I'm going to add a VBox here. I'm just going to say container dot new VBox. Then I'm just going to have a button here, widget dot new button. So I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to use button as my sidebar items. Okay, you can use the tree. Then I'm going to pass the function here. I'm just going to show test. Then I'm going to add it up here. I'm going to show test. Okay, so we have the details accordion. Now this one everybody can view. Okay, now we come to the admin specific accordion. Okay, I'm going to define a variable called admin accordion. In accordion widget with new accordion item. Okay, okay, so if is admin is true, then we're going to send this accordion item to a widget dot new accordion item, and I'm just going to call it admin. I'm going to call it admin. Then also going to have a VBox, new VBox. Then I'm going to have two buttons here. Just come and copy this. Okay, the first one I can call it dashboard. And I'm just going to say here show dashboard. Then the second one you can call it users. So users represents the people who can access the item, and also have come and define them here. Show users. Okay. Am I missing? Detail. Okay, so we have passed the users. let's make use of these two. And then I'm just going to also define accordion items so that I can be able to use the items above. So the reason I'm separating these two, it's because so that I'll be able to use specific details like checking if the user is an admin, and then we can allow them to either view them or not. Otherwise, if you put them together, then that means anybody else can come and view. And say accordion item, then we're going to apply the details accordion. Accordion, and this should be accordion item, details accordion, the new accordion item. Get accordion item type or widget accordion item. Let me just continue adding the details, and then we have the accordion items. Then we have to handle cases whereby if the admin is going to be, accordion is going to be nil, it's going to bring errors onto us, so we should be able to handle that. So I'm just going to say that if it is not nil, that's when we're going to append a widget dot accordion item, accordion item. In this case, I'm going to add the admin accordion, and then any accordion items. Okay, so we're also going to split this into the main accordion, then main accordion. I'm just going to say widget dot new accordion, and we're going to equate it to accordion items. Okay, then instead of this label here, we're going to add main accordion. And then another thing, we're going to from this details accordion, so the new accordion. Okay, we are done with the sidebar. And last thing, we want to add a logout button at the bottom here, and just say logout btn. Going to add the logout button. So when it's clicked, just going to show login. Okay, so I'm just going to add it here, the logout button. So it's going to be at the bottom. So what that means is we also need to pass the show login function here, and just say show login function. Okay, so let's come back to the main function because we already defined our login, our sidebar. So we have show login, show login, show dashboard. Also going to have show test, then gonna show users. Okay, so show dashboard, show login, show users, show test. Okay, we're going to come down here. We have to update our show dashboard because now we have a sidebar. I'm just going to say sidebar. Then we're going to have views sidebar. Then we have window first. Okay, so the show login. Next, we have show dashboard. We have show test. We have show users. Then we have a user ID. Okay, in this case I can just get it from the helpers dot current user ID, that it's displays after login. Okay, so here, apart from setting the content, I'm just going to have to use the container new border, that I can organize them. New border, and then nil thing at the middle. Then left we can have the sidebar, and then we can have nothing on the right. Then finally we can display the dashboard. So that is how the show code looks like. I'm just going to copy this and to paste it here. Then apart from the dashboard, I'm going to say users. So here we can come and say show users. Okay, so instead of displaying the dashboard here, I'm just going to edit this. I'm going to say users. Then here I'm going to change the view as well. Put user view. Oh, sorry. I'm going to copy the users view. Then I'm going to have this one as test. So I'm just going to say show test. Show test. And then here we're going to have tests. The test view. And then we're going to have test sidebar. So we have the dashboard, we have users, have test. Okay, now let's run it and confirm that it is working. I'm going to log in. Yes, you can see now we have the admin accordion and we have the details accordion. So currently the default one is dashboard. When you click this on the user view, they also have the test view, and then you can log out. Now I want to register a new user that is not an admin. Okay, because there is a very huge issue. There is a very huge issue that I discovered, especially if you log in as a user that is not an admin, you'll still be able to see the dashboard. So that should not happen, because we want to ensure that only the people who have logged in, they are admin, they'll be able to see the dashboard. I'm just going to call this person test user. It's going to call them test. It's going to supply some random number, and then it's just going to be user, then the password is going to be test. Okay, so I'm going to say test. Then immediately the login, you're going to see the dashboard, and then they only come to the sidebar because the admin is updated successfully. But now the dashboard is already visible to any user, so we don't want that to happen. So we're going to come back to our login page, and in my case I want, if a normal user has logged in and they're not admin, I want them to be able to see the show test, because that is show test is the component that any other person can see. This is why I love Go, because the moment you change a variable here, you can see all the files have been highlighted, so you know where to change. So I'm going to come down here, and I have to confirm that this person is an admin. I'm just going to say is admin, then I'm just going to say auth dot is admin, then I'm going to supply the user.id, plus the logged in user, then I'm also going to supply the window. So now I'm going to come here and say if this admin is true, I'm going to show the dashboard, else I'm going to show test. So what this ensures is that if a non-admin person has logged in, they're not going to see the dashboard, they're going to only see the test. So I'm going to come back here, the login view, and it's a show test. And I'm going to come back here again. I also need to pass here show test. Okay, then I'm going to come down here, I'm going to say show test, and then show test. Then I'm going to come back here because register has already been altered again. And then we're going to have show tests. I have entered them in the right. Good. Now let's run this. I'm going to log in as test. I'm going to log in as test, and then now we can see the test view is the default view because the person is not an admin. Let me log in as an admin. Then we can successfully see that everything else is working. Okay, so now we have successfully added our sidebar components. Now the next thing we are supposed to do is I'm going to work on the users first. Now this component is going to mainly contain people who can access the software. So what this means is that the admin can be able to delete and add users, of course, perform all CRUD operations within the user's view. Okay, so we're going to have to add the details here, and of course we already have the model here, the username, the full name, the phone, the role, and the password. So what I'm going to first do is we have to add the utility functions for getting the users, or performing various operations on the particular user. So once we've added these utility functions, they're going to help us to do the rest. So I'm just going to say package utils. Then the first function I'm going to create is function that helps me to get all users. Get all users. Because from the DB, I'm going to supply the window that we can be able to give feedback to the user. The window. Then I'm going to return a list of users. Okay, so we have that. Then the first thing we're supposed to do is define the collection. Then since I already have the function here, get collection, because it's going to be users, then I'm going to define the users here. Of course, it's going to be an array. Then we're going to grab the data from the collection, of course. Collection.find, using find because we want to find all of them. And then we're not going to supply any filters because we want all the data. Okay, of course we handle the error. And then in case there is an error, we're going to show the error dialog. With the window, the windows, and then we're going to come down here. Then we're going to defer closing cursor. Okay, going to defer closing the cursor. We're going to process all of them. Dialog, show error. Okay, display the error if it exists. Then finally done users. Okay, so this one is used for getting all the users. And then what if we want to get the user by ID? Okay, we can also define our function. We get user by ID, so I can just say func get user the ID. Of course, we have to the window again. Then we have to supply the ID. Then we're supposed to return a single user, of course. Wow. So as usual, we start by defining the collection. Just copy this. Then in this case, we're just going to say user because we're getting a single user. Then we're going to come to the collection part. In this case, of course, we are finding one. And just copy this. In this case, we are finding one. We're finding one. Returns only one item, so we do that. Then we have to supply our filters, in this case, of course, by ID. Also going to supply the ID. Then in case of an error, returning the error. Error is not nil, and it is variable mongo.single. For user, of course, we have to decode here. And then we are going to return a single user. Return user. Okay, so this one is for getting user by ID. And then I can also define another function. I can maybe update user. User, what does that user window and dot window. Also handling the errors, because we define the collection. It collection can just call them users, because the collection is users. Then we're going to it the collection dot find. Okay, let's just update one. Apply the context, the details, this one, ID plus user.id, and then we have this one .m, then is for setting value to user, and then we're returning the error, because this is the error that we'll use to handle it in the other side. And then apart from updating, can just copy this and add one more function that we can use to delete user. Supply this and the error. We have the collection, we have the user, then we are finding one. Now this one is to retrieve the user before deleting, so that we can be able to ensure that the user exists. So after you retrieve the user, you get the this, and then you provide the error, And finally, you can delete the user. Okay. So we have collection. Let's delete one. The context. And you provide the ID. Provide the ID. That's going to be ID. Okay, so we have added delete function for deleting a user, function for updating a user, getting a user by ID, and for getting all users. Okay, let's try getting the users and then see users. We can say utils get all users. Apply the window. And I'm just going to fmt.println users. I'm going to try and see if this function is working. Okay, try this out. Let's go to the users section. Yes, it's working. It's getting the users. See Moshe, Jado, and this. Those are the users that we have currently. Of course, the hash, the object ID, the name, the full name, the phone number, admin, and the hashed password. Yes. So our functions are working. So now the next thing is to build up on this view. Now we have to add a view whereby the user, like the admin, can easily come and add new users and delete the users. They can add more details to the users. So before we add that, I want to add two more things to these views. I want to add a header component. Okay, the header is just going to contain the current time, and I'm also going to add a footer component that's going to contain some details, maybe the year or something. So I'm going to come here, say footer.go. Okay, so we have the package. I'm just going to say function footer. Yes, we can pass the window. Window. Then we're going to return the file container, of course. And container. Now I want to return for the footer, I want to display the current year and maybe Moshe Finance, maybe all rights reserved or something like that. So to get the current time, I'm just going to say current time. Then I'm just going to get the time, first time dot now. Okay, dot now. Then let's say current year. So that's what I'm more interested in. It's going to say current time dot year. Okay, I'm going to define my footer. Going to be a container dot new center. Okay, I'm going to add a label widget dot new label. I have to format because I'm combining different components. So I'm going to just say maybe at, okay, the Moshe Finance. Okay, maybe all rights reserved. Okay, then I'm going to pass the current here. Then after doing that, I'm going to return the footer. To return the footer. So this is the footer. Then for the header, I'm going to add the header. Header.go package views. Let's say func header. So head is just going to display. It's going to display just the time, the current time. And you say Fyne.contain. Okay, let's add a time label. So this is how you can add a time label. Of course, I want it to show maybe it's either AM or PM. So I'm just going to say widget dot new label. Then I'm going to have time dot now. Then I have to format it. Dot now dot format. Okay, I'm going to have 03 04 05 PM. Okay, that's the time label. Now what I want to do is I want to update the time in real time. So I just am going to run go function, like a go routine within that, so that it updates every second. I'm just going to say go func okay, to be a go routine. Then I'm just going to say for range time dot tick. Okay, time dot second, so that it updates after every second. I'm just going to say current going to be time dot now dot format. Okay, and then we have to update it. So it's going to say Fyne dot do, going to be a function. Then just going to say time label dot set text to current. Then I'm just going to refresh the canvas dot refresh. Okay, time label. This is the time it's updating the time in real time. Okay, then we have our header here. You know, basically say container dot new hbox. Then we're just going to say widget dot new label. Then I can just say Moshe Finance. Then we have a spacer. Okay, layout dot spacer. Dot new space, so that you can add a space between this text and the time. Then you can return the time label. How many arguments in widget.label? Oh, sorry. These two are supposed to be on their own, like that. Then the rest can come down here. Then now we can return the header. Now we have defined our footer and we've defined our header. It's time that we use them. Okay, so I can use them like in this say in this test. I can come here and say header, supply the header, and since they're in the same folder, they're there. Then we have the footer, then we have the window. Okay, so at the top I'm going to have the header, the bottom I'm going to have the footer. Simple as that. So let's run this to ensure that it's working. Okay, I've dealt with the test. Yeah, test we have the head and the foot. Awesome. So I can copy this and I can add it to the dashboard. Okay, but here we have the header and then we have the foot. Header, then we have the foot. Same thing to test. Test is already done, users. Yep. So we have header, then we also have the footer. So all of them are currently added to the application. Wow. Login, and once you log in, you're going to see the header, was the Washer Finance and the current time, currently 2:42 AM. Then we have the footer here. When we come to the users, the same thing. We come to the details, the tests, we have the same thing, the header and the footer. So guys, let's see you. Oh, sorry. So not just for testing purposes. So next we're going to implement this user view along with the CRUD operations. So thank you so much for watching and listening. See you in the next video.